So today I want to talk to you about breathing better, and we'll look at it at its relevance to COVID-19 a bit later in the video. But if we think about breathing, we need it, we do it every day. But on average, most of us breathe anything between 20 to 22,000 times a day, which is quite a lot. But how many of those breaths are we actually aware of, and the impact that it has on the body physically and mentally? So first of all, if we think about breathing and the rib cage and the diaphragm, so the diaphragm is what helps the movement up and down of the rib cage, and when we breathe in different directions. So we should be breathing up and down. We should be breathing with sideways movement of the rib cage, and we should be breathing with front to back movement. And a lot of us, when we are stressed, tired, poorly, we tend to use more of the shallow up and down breathing higher into the chest, rather than maybe this sort of full expansion of belly breath and diaphragmatic breathing. Now, when we take a shallow breath, we're not accessing the deeper parts of the rib cage, so it's less efficient on our breathing economy. So we know when we breathe it and we're mindful of our breathing, it helps us to relax and de-stress, and it works the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calming nervous system in the body. But if we also look at it from a musculoskeletal point of view, if you think about when I said before about using this shallow breath all the time, I see a lot of patients in clinic where they come in with neck and shoulder pain and upper back pain when they are quite stressed, or we're slumped over the desk all the time, so our postures may be impacting how we breathe. And so if we think back to, say, 22,000 breaths a day, if I'm using this shallow breath, often it will look something like this, and I'm quite tense and overworking the neck and jaw muscles. So that can lead to reoccurring neck and shoulder pain. So this first video is more about bringing your awareness to your breathing, and then we'll start to look at techniques that we can use to work on the breath. So what's quite useful is just to start breathing, and sometimes I encourage patients to do this in front of the mirror. So watch what's happening. Do you look like everything's happening in the neck? And then also feel where that breath is coming. And again, this can be done sat, stood, led. I'm going to lie down for this demonstration. So we talked about the ribcage moving in different directions. Here we want to make sure that we're not taking that shallow breath. So I'm just going to have a hand on the chest and a hand on the belly. And we're going to look at belly breathing and just relaxing into that breath. So from here, I'm just breathing in and out. And it's up to you whether you breathe in through the nose or out through the mouth. But you should feel the belly rise on the inhale and lower on the exhale. But here is where I also want to feel like I'm breathing into the back of the rib cage as well. So I'm going to try and feel like the lower part of my rib cage is expanding to the mat as I breathe in and out. So you might want to just repeat this 8 to 10 times, so feel free to pause the video at this point. And a good starting point as well is to give you a baseline measurement, so you can actually time the start and end of 4 full breaths in and out. And whatever that time frame is, that's your baseline measurement for today. And as you work through strengthening exercises, you might find that you can then expand that time of those full deep breaths in and out for 4 repetitions. So let's look at another positioning that we can test the breathing in. With the diaphragm, movement's naturally greater at the back of the rib cage, and the movement up and down of the diaphragm is what helps with the lung capacity, but it also helps with natural movement and almost like a massage in the internal organs. And the movement at the back of the diaphragm can be up to 10 centimeters of movement, whereas when we are working at the front of the chest, that can only be up to 2 or 3 centimeters of movement. So again, if you look at that shallow breathing, you're not utilizing the full rib cage, but you're not getting fresh air all the way through the lungs. So for this technique, I'm just going to bring my belly towards my thighs. You can relax the head. If you want a little towel folded up there, you can. And again, just take 3 to 5 full breaths in and out. And again, feel where that breathing is going. So what we've done now is compromise the ability to breathe through the front of the chest, and I'm forcing you to take a more diaphragmatic breath at the back of the body. Now, I'm naturally quite stiff in this area, and again, that's another thing that we will look at in some of the later videos, is sometimes stiffness in the mid-back, the thoracic spine, and some of the intercostal muscles will actually reduce the ability for that rib cage to expand. So sometimes you need to do mobility work to accompany the breathing. But what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to give myself a little bit of feedback. So I've got a TheraBand here, but you could use a scarf or a belt, or even a family member's hands onto the back of the rib cage, maybe where you feel that you're struggling to take that breath. And if not, just reach the fingertips forwards without an object. So what I'm going to focus on doing now is breathing into the blue band. So breath in and out. And straight away, I can feel that I'm getting a much better expansion into that chest just by having a little bit of feedback of where that air needs to go. So that's another way of starting to be conscious of your breathing. So then let's put that into a little bit more of an exercise. And we're going to look first of all at deep, long breathing. And it is as it says on the tin. So when we are starting to train the breath, we want our exhale to be a little bit longer than our inhale. Now, if you're completely new to these sort of exercises, it may be at the moment that you just work on matching the length of your inhale and your exhale. So for example, if I take a breath in for the count of 3, can I breathe out for the count of 3? And for the time being, it's entirely up to you whether you breathe in or out through the nose or the mouth. We'll look at that in the next video. So breath in and match the length of that exhale. What I'm going to try and do now is lengthen my exhale a little bit. So I'm going to breathe in for 3 and breathe out for 5. Or breathe in for 4. And breathe out for 6. So if you choose the length of that inhale and exhale, but it should still be comfortable. You shouldn't feel like you're lengthening so much that you're struggling and gasping for air or making yourself dizzy. Have a practice. Again, don't worry so much about the ins and the outs for now. Just do what feels natural for you. I personally find an exhale through the mouth allows me to lengthen that a little bit more, but again, we'll look at that in the next couple of exercises. But for the time being, I want you just to be a little bit more aware of your breathing, where the breath is going within the rib cage and the belly, and how that feels. And again, you can use things like the timing of the 4 breaths, full in and out, as your baseline, or you can use that closed down position or some tactile feedback, or it might be sitting against the wall or lying on the floor where you can feel that breath moving into the body rather than everything coming up in the shoulders. Have a go and then tune in on the next video where we will explore the breathing techniques and some upper back mobility a little bit further. Thank you.